I'm not exactly sure what Democrats were thinking with Kamala Harris. Actually, that's probably not true. If we really think about it, I think we know exactly what they were thinking. They were thinking that they have no choice. They cannot be seen skipping or even thinking about skipping someone that looks like Kamala Harris. And not because she earned it, not because she was supposed to be there, not because she was a great vice president or any other redeeming moment throughout her completely underwhelming career, but because the warning had already been issued. The Democrats, they heard their constituents saying that the most loyal people Democrats have, black women, wouldn't stand for it. But I don't know, man, there's a lot coming down the pipe now. And I'll show you later in the video that those same black women, actually basically all of the BLM organization, they're revolting right now against the idea of having Kamala Harris forced down their throats. But while all that's going on, man, the media and the Democrats are doing everything they can to ignore the very, very real concerns of disaffected Democrats, right? And instead of worrying about that, instead of addressing that, instead of actually paying any real attention to the people over at BLM, they're already starting their work on painting anyone that would oppose Kamala Harris as some sort of woman-hating, evil racist, right? Who just can't accept mediocrity when it comes to black women.
So she's already raised over $100 million. And it's only
like in 48
like a day and a half. Yeah, a day and a half.
Yeah.
But Republicans like Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, Bucket? I don't know what it says. Burchett. Have been ramping up their attacks on why she's unfit to serve. Watch.
First off, he said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and that he just skipped over. What about white females? What about any other group? Just when you go down that route, you take mediocrity, and that's what they have right now as a vice president.
So are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire.
Okay, so here I'm going to be respectful because you actually have a job. He never said that. He said he was thinking about a woman. He never said her color. He never said anything. If you're going to attack people, try to do it in a factual manner. I know that is almost insane for you to think about, but a fact really does make a difference.
It's rare, but I could not agree more with Whoopi Goldberg. Facts absolutely do matter. Was Joe Biden thinking about a woman, or did he actually promise a woman?
What will you do to cultivate the next generation of leaders across the globe?
Number one, first let's start with my administration. My administration will look like America. I'm going to make sure that we bring in a new generation of leadership. From the vice president, I'm going to have a woman as vice president. I'm going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so apparently facts do matter, and Burchett was absolutely 100% correct. And Whoopi Goldberg, as usual, is wrong. Joe Biden promised to pick a woman and a woman only because he wanted to make sure that his administration looked like America. Because, of course, to Democrats, 56 years after the killing of Martin Luther King Jr., what you actually look like is still the most important thing that you can offer the world or offer the country or offer the Democrat Party. And in other news, apparently what he thinks America looks like, judging by his administration, is a collection of left-wing psychopathic liars. But tell us more, wise and trustworthy Whoopi Goldberg.
People won't attack you if you're accurate. They'll say you're wrong, but you are beyond wrong. You're trying to send a little message about the fact that she's a woman of color. We all see it. We know what you're doing.
Why
Stop
are these
it.
white men so scared of the importance?
Because black women and women of color freak people out. I don't know why.
Just listen to these people. Why are white men so scared of powerful black women? Asked Joy Behar. And Whoopi says she has no idea. But I think a better question is, if Joe Biden was the only white man who not terrified of the Whoopi Goldbergs and the Kamala Harrises of the world, why do they support the coup that just happened against the poor old guy just weeks after they were just completely behind him? But I don't. That's a different video. None of that is important, right? But the Democrats, I think, made a pretty monumental mistake with Kamala Harris. And not really, the mistake wasn't anointing her, obviously. I mean, that was a mistake. But they really didn't have any choice but to do that. They didn't want to, but they really had no choice. Their mistake was over 4 years ago, man. Their mistake was picking her in the first place because she is exactly what they say. You know, she was chosen because of her parts and because of her pigment. She was not chosen, had nothing to do with any of her abilities, right? And that has only proven itself over and over and over again in the finished product that is Kamala, man. And that's honestly, I think that's why we're seeing the media literally jumping through the most amazing hoops they can jump through to try to soften the blow, to try to nullify some pretty successful attacks and complaints against Kamala Harris, because Americans know the truth, man. And the Democrats themselves know the truth. Everybody knows why Kamala Harris was chosen to be vice president. Everybody knows why she was chosen to run for president. What did these people think was going to happen?
This is an organization, this is a right-wing campaign that's going to be racist, misogynistic against the vice president, but we're going to stand on the issues and what really matters. It's the fact that she is qualified. They want to call her a DEI president or DEI candidate. She has more experience than Trump and J.D. Vance combined times a million, right? She worked at the state level. She was the attorney general. She's vice president of the United States. She was a senator representing one of the largest states in the entire country. And so these are just racist dog whistles. Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually mean.
Do you think Congressman Burchett is being a racist when he says that?
I have a good relationship with the congressman. I think sometimes, though, he does use rhetoric that is racist. And whether people know it's racist or not, I'm here to tell them that is racist, and I hope they won't use that rhetoric.
Did you see the chyron there at the bottom of the screen? It said, J.D. Vance says that Democrats say everything is racist. And then literally just above that, you have a guy saying that, yes, it is racist. Everything is racist. The truth about Kamala Harris is racist. But to his credit, and you got to give him credit, he couldn't actually bring himself to call Burchett racist because he knows very well that that's not true. But he does say that, you know, sometimes we just say things that are racist without knowing just how racist they are. But he's there to let you know, right? And that's one way to do it. You got to respect him being there to let you know. But another tactic is what Van Jones is doing. Van Jones is warning Republicans that if they actually tell the truth about Kamala Harris, that they're going to lose black women. Because apparently the only people on all of planet Earth who think that Kamala Harris is vice president based on actual merit, according to Van Jones, are black women. And I don't know, man. I think Van Jones, he might be in for a real surprise.
It's the DEI hire part first, and then it's the record. But they can't help themselves but going at the race part of this.
Let me just say something here.
Please do.
This is going to work out badly because they worked very hard to attract black men into the Republican Party. They worked very hard to attract Latin men into the Republican Party. And they were getting a little bit of momentum there. There were a lot of black men who were saying, no, the Democrats don't do anything for us, and Biden's weak. And they're starting to look over there at the Republican Party. You start insulting black women, you're going to see something you haven't seen before. Black men are not going to put up with that. I want to send a warning, as clear as I can. I was on a phone call with 20,000 black men. The word protect came up about 1,000 times. Protect this sister. Protect this sister. We're going to protect her. Protect her. You're about to see something you haven't seen before. Look, people messed around with Hillary Clinton and said a bunch of mean stuff to her. Black men set that out. We won't set this out. So I don't think that the Republican Party understands that all the work that they did trying to get us over there, two more days of this, it's going to be a problem.
Look,
Dude, what is this dude talking about? What planet is Van Jones on, man? I really don't think that Van Jones has the fingers on the pulse of the real world quite like he thinks, because the BLM organization tweeted probably the most surprising tweet that I've seen, maybe ever, but at least in a very, very long time. And they put it pretty perfectly. They said, timeline of events, Sunday, Joe Biden drops out. Kamala Harris announces campaign with Biden endorsement. Kamala Harris says she's going to go out and work hard to earn the nomination. Next, Kamala Harris makes calls to party delegates. Next comes Monday. Kamala Harris continues making calls to party delegates. Kamala Harris makes 2 public speeches. AP announces Kamala Harris has secured enough delegates to be the Democratic nominee. This is Monday night. Then Kamala Harris releases this statement noting that she has worked hard, so hard to go out and earn this nomination as promised. Again, this is Monday night. A 24-hour process of talking to party bosses is not democratic, nor is it a process that Democrats should feel proud of. We do not live in a dictatorship, and delegates are not oligarchs. Installing Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee and an unknown vice president without any public voting process would make the modern Democratic Party a party of hypocrites. We call on the DNC to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. Honestly, man, I'm surprised, but really, I don't think we should be surprised, because no matter what side you're on, no matter who you are, that makes complete and total sense. I mean, you cannot possibly argue with it. And the response on social media, man, was almost instantaneous.
Before y'all Democrats start trying to play the race card, I want y'all to understand this. Kamala is not black. Her kids is not black. Her husband is not black. She does not come from black culture. So don't tell me I got to support Kamala Harris because she black. The race pander from the Democratic Party got to stop. It's really that simple. Thank you for listening.
So y'all get in here. President Biden done dropped out of the race. He endorses Kamala Harris. Kamala have not done anything but laugh for the last 3.5 years. She ain't did nothing but laugh her way through the last 3.5 years. I mean, and the dialogue, the talks that she did do or have was so misconstrued, couldn't understand them. Most of the time, nobody knew what she was talking about. Y'all, come on. Is Kamala, is she the one? Is she who America wants to hold nuclear codes?
Now, why should you be offended? You would think, oh, well, yeah, we black people, we supposed to support our black folk. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me explain something to you. You should be offended beyond rapport because of the fact that somebody is willing to put someone in a seat for their color, even when they're not qualified to do a favor for you. Let me explain to you how the last 4 years have went. Up 3, coming into this 4. Let me explain something to you. So for the first three years, Kamala has not cared about the black community, okay? Kamala and Biden have been doing everything in their power to support illegal immigrants.
Man, if you love black people, if you love black women, you would not want Kamala Harris to stand for president of the United States, you know. If you love black women and support black women, you wouldn't want Kamala Harris to serve as president of the United States.
Ain't nobody voting for Kamala Harris, y'all. I don't know why y'all keep saying vote for Kamala Harris. It's not happening. She would never step foot as the president ever in her life. And for black people to vote for the Democratic Party, regardless of how you put it, is stupid. Y'all don't know the history of the Democratic Party. They've never been for black people, ever.
You got to give credit where credit's due, man. People, like all people, except for the very, very few that are just so tribalist crazy and infected with Trump derangement syndrome, all people recognize that this is wrong, that every single thing about this is wrong. And here's the thing, man. If you're trotting out Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi to explain to the world that this is just how democracy works, then that's an uphill battle that I don't think you can win, right? I mean, we might actually be watching in real time the very, very slow end of the entire Democrat Party.
Yes. Leader, I know you said that this was a bottom-up process, but Kamala Harris is the Vice President of the United States. There was no other competition. This is going to be selected by party delegates, insiders, essentially. What's your case to the American people and to the Democratic voters that voted for Joe Biden that this isn't a coronation?
The bottom line, it was a bottom-up process. People just rallied right to her side. The enthusiasm in this big, diverse, representative party was amazing. It was palpable. You could cut it with a knife.
Oh, people rallied right to her side in this big, diverse, representative party, spoken by a weasel for a weasel. It says all people rallied to Kamala, and they did it all in 24 hours. It was so palpable, you could cut it with a knife, says Chuck Schumer, man. Come on, dude. Here's what really happened, I believe, right? I believe that the people who actually control Democrats, they thought that anointing Kamala Harris, first, they think they can do anything they want, right? But next, they thought that anointing her would do less damage to the party than an open convention where people actually aired their dirty laundry and basically fight it out, right? So they chose to risk damage to actual democracy to save the failing Democrat Party. That's what I think happened. And regardless of what actually happened, people are pissed off.
And let's bring in Laura Trump, RNC co-chair. They just anointed Kamala Harris. She's received no vote. And when I mean no votes, I mean she was the first one out of the race. She never got a primary vote. Now they've anointed her as a leader. She didn't get any Democratic primary in this election as well. So what do you make of this? They said they were going to run on democracy, and this seems real democratic.
Lawrence, it is such a joke. Look at the other side. Oh my gosh. We had to basically get a proof of life in a phone call from Joe Biden, the current president. I'll remind everybody, yesterday, whenever Kamala Harris went to that Wilmington campaign office, this is insane. Do they really think the American people want to vote for this party? This is what this party is doing to the country? Wow. You are exactly right, Lawrence. I'll remind the audience how the process is actually supposed to work here in America. These folks in Washington, D.C. actually work for us. We, the people, we are actually supposed to vote for them and elect them to these offices. And yet it appears a lot of people for a long time knew Joe Biden could not actually run this race and actually probably shouldn't be president of the United States right now. Some people might say that that June 27th debate with Donald Trump, which was obviously disastrous, maybe was the first step in pushing Joe Biden out. Then you had the press conference, the NATO press conference, where he stood up in front of, the country and really didn't seem to have it together. That may have been another step in pushing him out. And then it seems like whenever he wouldn't go out on his own accord, they had to threaten him. Right. And now they have coronated Kamala Harris. This is not democracy. She also dropped out before her own home state of California voted in 2019 because she was polling so low.
Right. Pay close attention to that, man. You can question all the intricacies of the narrative all you want, right? But the reality is the Democrat Party swore to you for years. They're still swearing to you today. I mean, literally, that Joe Biden was capable. And they promised you that they supported Joe Biden. Then literally over the span of a weekend, they turned on him, they removed him, and they installed, there's no other way to put it, they installed Kamala Harris, who was such a bad presidential candidate almost 5 years ago, the last time she actually campaigned for anything. She was so bad that she couldn't even break double digits in her own home state, where she was a sitting senator, right? And don't forget, man, this is the party that can't go 10 words without talking about democracy. And they can't go 15 words without talking about the importance of voting rights and Republicans stopping the vote, right? But instead of respecting democracy and allowing their actual constituents to actually vote, they chose the person that they thought that they could win with, which honestly tells a pretty remarkable story about the Democrat bench, but that's a different topic. This is who they've chosen. And this is how real people that the Democrats have come to rely on actually view what's happening.
So the DNC, the GCCC, and the Democratic Party all actively forgoed a primary process. And they were telling us that Joe was ready to go. Even though you and I both knew that Joe probably hasn't known what day it is since about 2022. And now we're expected to support Kamala Harris, who, mind you, is not only a member of his administration, so an active participant in what is going on in Gaza, but she's also a cop, a prosecutor who ruined a lot of black families in California. She was actually so unpopular in her home state that she had to drop out of the 2020 race prior to the voting because she kept coming in 5th place in all the polls. So, no, I will not be supporting Kamala Harris. I don't care how much they black girl magic her over the next couple of months. I will not be supporting Kamala Harris, and you shouldn't either. Democratic nominees are voted for. They debate. They actually go through a real primary process. Kamala Harris did not do that. Joe Biden didn't even do that. And I want to be very clear that when Donald Trump wins in November, that it is because of the fact that the Democratic Party, the DNC, and the DCCC have decided to forgo democracy because they do not actually care about upholding democracy. Anyway, vote for Jill Stein.
Honestly, man, how amazing is that video, right? I watched a lot of these videos. And dozens of them, right, essentially said the same thing, probably more. But she said it best, and she's absolutely right. Everything we're seeing is a result of Democrat tinkering. When just like she said, when Donald Trump wins, a good portion of that win will be the result of a protest vote against the Democrat destruction of everything this country is about. And definitely everything that their party has pretended to care about for years and years and years now, which is honestly pretty damn poetic when you really break it down. And when you really do break it down, there's no coalition of women coming to save Kamala Harris. There's no giant group made up of everyone that isn't straight, white, or male. You know, they think young people are going to turn out for Kamala. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, I think Kamala told us exactly why that might happen.
And it's a specific phase of life. Remember, age is more than a chronological fact. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
Did you see the look on that young lady's face when she actually said that? She was offended, as everybody else in the room laughed like a bunch of trained seals. She was offended, and not because it's true. It's obviously not true, and they're going to prove it to her, right? But she was offended because Kamala Harris believed it. She actually meant that. And you can always tell when she's saying something that she actually believes because she doesn't repeat it. Every other dumb thing that she says, that she repeats, you know, the things that she says when she's not even sure what she's talking about, she repeats them so many times, like between 2 and over a dozen times. But she didn't repeat this. This she actually meant. She believes that. And young people are not stupid. Young people are waking up really, really quick.
Yeah, you know, all this stuff about Brat Summer and all that jazz. So I want to take a look at Trump versus Democratic margin. Just remind folks where we were at the end of the 2020 campaign. Joe Biden won voters under the age of 35 by 21 points. What do we see with Kamala Harris? Well, she's still ahead, but the margin here is significantly less than what we saw with Joe Biden back in 2020. She's up by just 9 points. You may make the argument that was better than Biden was doing before he got out. But compared to that Democratic baseline, where Democrats have historically in presidential elections, at least this century, been carrying that young vote by 20 or more percentage points, she is way down from that. So if this is unique support among young voters, I would like to know what non-unique support is. Is it even worse than this?
Is she doing better than Biden was, though?
She was doing slightly better. Maybe Biden was up by, like 6 on average or 5. This is maybe slightly better, but this is not game-changing stuff, Mr. Berman.
All right, what have we seen in terms of motivation?
Yeah, so, the other thing is we talk about vote choice, right? But let's also talk about motivation, right? Because it's not just who you would support, it's whether or not you'd come out to the polls. And this, I think, is rather interesting. Do Democrats say they're more motivated to turn out after Biden left the race? Well, we do see a significant portion of Democrats who say yes, 39%. The thing I was interested in was it disproportionately younger voters who said that they were more likely to turn out or more motivated to turn out. And what we see here is it's 42%. Not a big difference between 42 and 39%. So this idea, again, that the vice president has unique potential to dig in and get young voters to turn out, John, it's just not there in the numbers despite all the internet memes that are going around.
At least not yet.
This is just the beginning, man. These are the first polls. I mean, this should be the honeymoon phase for Kamala Harris, but she's already slipping, man. And she's slipping really, really fast because the problem with Kamala is Kamala. She's her own worst problem. And the Democrat messaging, man, she herself, she doesn't really bring anything to the table. She hasn't ever been a real likable candidate for any office that she's ever held. She's awkward. She doesn't come off real trustworthy. She doesn't sound intelligent or sincere. And honestly, if the Democrats are going to run the same play in 2024, a strategy, no real agenda, no real policy, no real plans, just look at us, we're not Donald Trump. If you're going to play that same play, you got to use someone that people actually like more than Donald Trump.
Take it away. Well, we got our first look at a Harris-Trump race that is no longer hypothetical. And what you see here is there's no clear leader in the top line of the horse race here. A 3-point margin. That's within the margin of error, Dana. Donald Trump at 49% support. Kamala Harris at 46% support. That's about half the margin that we saw in the Biden versus Trump matchup the last couple of months that we polled. That was a 6-point race. This one now is a 3-point race. And if you look here, broken out by party, you see near total consolidation among Democrats for Harris, similar, more than 9 in 10 Republicans for Trump. Take a look here at the independents. Trump has 46%, Harris has 43%. Biden was losing independents to Trump in the last couple of months, according to our polling, by roughly 10 points. Now Harris is just losing them by 3, though remember, Biden won them by 13 points in 2020 when he won that election.
Now let's talk about the coalition. What the president, now former candidate for re-election, Joe Biden, really struggled with was holding the Democratic coalition together. Where is Kamala Harris on that?
She's definitely making up ground with some of these key core constituencies. If you look here, this is a poll that we did with SSRS, contacting people we had polled in April and June, right? So you can actually track the movement. And you see here, young voters, it was a 7-point advantage for Trump in the spring over Biden. Now Kamala Harris has a 4-point advantage among young voters. Black voters, Joe Biden had a 47-point advantage in the spring. Kamala Harris has increased that to a 63 percentage point advantage there. Hispanic voters, Harris narrows Trump's advantage, but I just want to note again, Donald Trump numerically ahead among Hispanic voters within the margin of error. That was a key group in 2020 that Biden won overwhelmingly, so still work there to do for the Democrats. And among female voters, you see that Harris has increased the lead where they were tied among women when it was Biden on the ticket.
I mean, that might look bad at first glance, but remember, guys, she hasn't even had to open her mouth. I mean, she hasn't had to give any speeches, right? I think she gave 2 speeches, one at the campaign headquarters and one at her old sororities convention. She hasn't done any real interviews. She hasn't done a town hall. She has not done anything. And still, this is what people that she's going to rely on actually think of her. She's given them a 5-point bump among women. And that I'm going to show you that I don't think that's even all that accurate, but this is not a good thing for Democrats. This is not a good sign. The Republican pollsters, before these polls all started coming out, they were expecting some pretty big bumps for the left, but that hasn't happened. And if it does happen, I don't think that they can count on women to actually make that happen.
How do you perceive Vice President Harris compared to President Biden in terms of competency and experience?
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was supposed to be doing and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in jeopardy. Well, it isn't. Not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring, would make you consider voting for her?
No. Never consider voting for her. No. I would do RFK Jr. way before her. Yeah, same. Absolutely.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
If Vice President Kamala Harris wins the election, do you think that will be an honest result?
No. No one respects her.
No one respects her, she said. And she was actually laughing when she said it, as if a Kamala Harris presidency is that unbelievable, man. And I'll tell you, man, the best part of making these videos that we're making right now is finding the things that actually restore my hope for humanity. And a group of women that aren't going to vote just because someone else is a woman, the BLM leadership demanding an actual democratic process. These things are awesome. These things restore some faith, man. They're done being dictated to. They're done getting taken advantage of and taken for granted. The way it's supposed to work is these people work for us. And I don't know, it's early. Obviously anything can happen, but it's starting to really feel like order might actually start getting restored to the system. And we may actually be getting, I don't know, man, real close to some actual accountability. And I think the people that really have been watching Joe Biden being elder abused are going to hold Kamala Harris accountable.
Who do you blame for President Biden being in office in this condition? Who deserves the blame?
His close staff. They work with him every day.
So I think that's what also makes me nervous about the Vice President Harris. Yeah.
Talk about that a bit.
So yes, she's going to be in it, but she also helped keep him in where he's at right now. And if he really is as bad as what they've been saying, I think if he steps down as president and she steps into the presidency before the end of his term, it almost makes me question a little bit more why it didn't happen sooner. She's worked with him. She's been, to my understanding, with him daily, or at least a couple of days a week. Why hasn't this been brought to her attention if she's willing to hide that type of information once she's in office? Now what she's willing to hide for herself. And so I think that makes me a little bit uneasy, not necessarily that I wouldn't vote for her for it, but it definitely opens that questioning of why now? Why are you now being okay with exposing Biden's health concerns? Is it because it benefits you, or kind of what that line of questioning looks like?
Yeah, is it a power grab or?
Does anyone agree with Melissa's point that it calls into the vice president's judgment that she has been around while Biden's health has deteriorated?
100% agree. But it also seems like that's kind of how she carries herself. She kind of does what in the moment she needs to do to continue to move forward and move up.
Dude, I mean, you can't argue with that logic. If Kamala Harris would elder abuse an old man and hide those kinds of things from the American people, what would she do to protect herself? And really, even deeper than that, can we really trust her with anything? If you're going to lie and literally elder abuse, there is nothing on this planet that you're not capable of. And I think these things are going to be real liabilities for this whole Kamala Harris experiment, right? And that's before you even get to the border or to actual policy. You know, if you cannot trust someone's character, you're going to focus like hell on their job performance and their policies. And that is the absolute last thing that Democrats want people to do regarding Kamala Harris.
From their presumptive new nominee.
One of the numbers that just jumped off the page when the poll came back, Dana, was this is among Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. Do you want the next Democratic nominee, her name is Kamala Harris, we know, to continue Biden's policies or take the United States in a new direction? 53% say continue Biden's policies. 47% say take in a new direction. A near even split among Democrats looking for a new direction here. I think that is very...
Obviously, I mean, everything I've gone over in this video, it's all bad news for Kamala Harris and obviously probably pretty good news for Donald Trump, right? These are very, very, very bad poll results for someone that literally just started their campaign. If she wasn't the only Democrat horse in the race, she'd be out. I mean, she'd be looking for the door. She would not have a dime of big money coming in. She'd be done. But this is what Democrats have. They have absolutely no choice. And they've done it all to themselves. And it's crazy to watch, man. Obviously, there's a long way to go. There's months to go. There's absolutely no telling what will happen. But if policy is the problem, and with these people, with this mess, policy really, really should be the problem, there's no getting away from that. Every single one of these policies, they are essentially her policies. I mean, not only is her name on the building, but people now believe that she's essentially been the president for who knows how long, right? So we'll see how it goes. But my guess is by the end of August, Democrats are going to recognize that it's all pretty well over, and they're going to be looking for people to blame. So I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch, but that's just my take, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.